All right. Okay, so let's, I guess we'll start the roll call.
When I call your name, please say present. Jason Zimmerman or Joshua Hartman. Grace Cafcciola. Present. Bradley Kaufman.
Present.
Andrew Dahl or Allison Burke. William Goffin.
Present.
Daniel Mizels.
Present.
Jerry Gutzman.
Present.
Robert Bristol. Max Goldfarb. Detective John DeGregorio. Edward Jarvis. James Pointer.
Present.
Gerald Gelbard.
Present.
Joseph Shanker.
Present.
Michael Raiola.
Present.
Michael Vetch. Mordecai Lax.
Present.
Martina Baccarella. Present. Marie Diglio. Nancy Benedetto.
Present.
Arthur Cooper. Robert Krupe.
Present.
Megan Kessel. Manfred Fuchs.
Present.
Benjamin Fay. Michael Combs. Yedidia Langsam. Brian Levinsky.
Present.
Dennis Laurie.
Present.
Warren Barsley.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. We have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum. Great. All right, so hopefully you had a chance to look at the January 28th, the KK 25 meeting minutes. KK, can I have a motion to approve? Or any questions first? Motion, second? All approved? Correspondence report?
You have the correspondence report. You have the correspondence report.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. On membership, again, Benjamin Fay, Marie Diglio requested excusal from tonight's meeting due to illness. Fit EMS, the Fire Department Search and Rescue Field Medicine Symposium will be held on April 24th to 27th. A website, KK is available, key to register. The New York State Department of Bureau of EMS, KK and Trauma Systems received communication from Daniel Renahan, the senior attorney that New York State Department of Health Bureau of EMS has referred the results of a full inspection of Whitestone Community Volunteer Ambulance Service, KK, which took place on or about March 31st, 2024 to my Bureau for Enforcement. This is the Bureau's words. Okay, the inspection found multiple violations of public health law 3012 and 10 NYCRR Part 800.2. The Bureau offers Whitestone an opportunity to resolve this matter through settlement before scheduling an administrative hearing to address the alleged above mentioned violations. The Bureau enclosed a proposed stipulation order, which remains subject to the final review and approval by the Commissioner of Health. Whitestone has 30 days from the date of this letter to sign it if they approve of the action. The following fitting directives were forwarded from the New York State Department of Health to the Office of the Regional Counsel. EMS, KK OGP 115-08, effective March 12th, outlines the patient should be transported to the closest appropriate 911 ambulance destination recommended by EMS computer-aided dispatch system, CAD. OMC shall not be contacted or override 911 hospital suggested by the CAD in cases where in case where a patient makes a transport request from a medical facility other than the recommended CAD choice. Inform the patient that transport to the request of the hospital cannot be approved and advise the patient of their choices of medical facilities. Okay, if the patient declines transport to one of these suggested hospitals and the patient has been categorized as high index of suspicion by the EMS crew, the EMS crew must contact OMC to secure refusal of medical aid. The EMS crew shall secure an RMA without OMC contact for patient they deem a low index of suspicion. The Office of Medical Affairs Directive 2025-02, effective March 12th, 2025, means that all patients will be transferred to a facility determined by the hospital's suggestion mask, and crews shall not override the CAD recommended hospital. The New York State Department of Health is soliciting feedback via survey to assess the potential impact of the core sponsor upgrade to the paramedic original program in Brooklyn Sunset Park. The survey aims to gather input from local agency leaders, educators, EMS stakeholders to evaluate the effect of the proposed program on EMS education within Kings County. The new program would provide both original and refresher paramedic courses. Survey response will inform the decision-making process regarding course sponsor approval. The name of the course sponsor was not provided. The survey was distributed to the region. Drew Chesney, the Unit Chief of Instructional Standards and Compliance, emailed the region to inform them that the Bureau of EMS is offering reimbursement to paramedics who completed their training in 2023 or 2024. The potential voucher reimbursement of $1,500 will be received for their education costs through the New York State EMS Training Fund. The letter specified that the voucher must be submitted by EMS agency or educational program, not the individual paramedic, and the funds are paid to the submitting agency. Vital Signs Academy CME flyer for the week of February 10th, 2025, and the Vital Signs Academy CME for the week of February 3rd, 2025. New York State Department of Health Enforcement, Jocko Jr. Ronald of Hyde Park, New York, suspended for 1 year, effective February 27th, 2025, and until such time as the respondent complies with a paramedic full refresher without challenge and passes the New York State Advanced Medical EMT recertification test, whichever is later. 3-year probationary period, assessed a civil penalty of $2,000. Ryan Morgan of Pleasantville, New York, was suspended for 1 year effective the 21st of February for violations of NYC RR 800.3, number citation 800.3, 800.3 AM, 800.15, A1, 800.15, A2, 800.16, A1, 800.16, A2, and 800.16, A and 3. Suspension is stayed pending no violations of Public Health Law 30, 10 NYCRR Part 800 for 3 years. It's a civil penalty of $1,000. Enforcement actions for both the providers and agencies can be viewed on New York State Department of Health, BMS, and training, EMS, disciplinary actions enforcement actions page. Again, there's a web page if you care to have us share with you. Nothing from New York State DOH. Ambulance agencies, I'm sorry this is so long. Received the communication from Medisys that the following agencies are using our online medical control facility: Bay Community Volunteer, the following: Bay Community Volunteer Ambulance Corps, Broad Channel Volunteer Fire Department, Central Park Medical Unit, East Midwood Volunteer Ambulance Corps for the ALS, Forest Hills Volunteer Ambulance Corps, Jamaica Estates, Volunteer Ambulance Corps, Linden Wood Volunteer Ambulance Corps, ALS, Rockaway Point Volunteer Fire Department, West Town Beach Volunteer Incorporated, and their units. Bedford-Stuyvesant Volunteer Ambulance Corps applied to participate in the BLS iGel Supraglottic Airway pilot program. This application included a letter of support from the medical director and an implementation plan. According to Thompson Wolf, VP and Treasurer, the agency has already purchased necessary equipment, and its EMTs have completed the online iGel training provided by New York City REMAC. American Medical Response in New York, doing business with Hunter Ambulance, submitted a DOH 5136 application along with a request for approval for the EMS agency to use the EPCR. Our staff has reviewed and endorsed the document, which has been forwarded to the New York State Department of Health Bureau of EMS for further review. Primary Care Ambulance has submitted a request to update its DOH 5136 form as part of an agency update to the New York State to the Department of Health. This request is necessary due to the change of base operations from 2699 Richmond Terrace to 84 Granite Avenue, both in Staten Island. The request states that there have been no changes to their EPCR, KK software, or any third-party involvement. Primary Care Ambulance is asking the regional program agency to endorse this change and forward the request to New York State Department of Health for approval. Staff have reviewed and endorsed the document, which has been sent to the Bureau of EMS at New York State Department of Health for further review. Forest Hills Volunteer Ambulance Corps advised the Office of the Regional Council of funeral arrangements for its ex-president, Daniel R. Exler. Flatlands Volunteer Ambulance Corps announced their 50th anniversary gala celebration for Sunday, May 18, 2025. The event will be held at the View Room, 3007 Nostrum Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. The cake is starting at 6 p.m. for cocktails. For information, reservations, sponsorships, journal ads, there's an email provided which we can provide to you. Received an email from Daniel Kavanaugh, Garrison Beach Fire Department, congratulating Joseph Rieri on his appointment as Executive Director of New York City REMSCO. Also received communication from Bill Howe at Maimonides about a nationwide shortage of cyano kits. He requested guidance from REMAC on how to proceed in accordance with the protocol. CME Training Long Island Jewish hosted an EMS continuing education event on February 4th, 2025, focused on stroke and cardiac emergencies. Other received communications from UBMD, EMS program agency informing our region that due to the loss of grant funding from the State Department of Health Bureau of EMS, they're choosing to close the program effective, the program agency effective immediately. Anonymous submission received at the New York City REMSCO website stated Northwell sent their memo to the New York City REMAC. Is no longer required for their medics except for 50 911 units. This means medics operating in New York City responding to direct dial emergencies, mutual aid, and interfacility calls will not be New York City REMAC credential. Q4 October to December 2024 report was received from Muru, which included provider percentages for our region, total users based on certification level, and the top search protocols for ELS versus BLS. The top 5 paramedic searches are seizures, general pain management, procedural sedation, advanced airway management, asthma, COPD, wheezing, and ACS suspected MI chest pain. The top 5 EMT surgeries are stroke, CVA, ACS suspected MI chest pain, asthma, COPD, wheezing, anaphylaxis, severe allergic reaction, and altered mental status. An email was received from a student requesting REMSCO disseminate her research survey and EMT training methods that will provide the best training for highly prepared EMTs. EMTs will fill out a quick survey asking questions about their training experiences, followed by an interview and 25-minute question assessment, discussing different aspects of emergency medicine. The process is predicted to take 30 to 45 minutes, will not be published. Email includes links to the survey, consent form, interview question, and a test. This request was forwarded to QI committee for review. Northwell, Health, emergency medicine requested REMSCO disseminate the project, elevating the voices of pregnant EMS clinicians, which focuses on experiencing the experience of being pregnant while working or volunteering as an EMS clinician. This request was forwarded to the QI committee for review. An email was received from James Downey from Nivara regarding the 2026 New York State executive budget proposal, specifically related to EMS. He mentioned he found several sections of a 142-page briefing book covering EMS legislation. Key points in the email include the budget, include the budget, including the following: allow paramedics to administer buprenorphine to more effectively combat opioid use disorders. The budget includes legislation allowing paramedics to administer buprenorphine. This critical change will allow EMS providers to treat and save lives upon contact more effectively, especially in rural areas. Ensure access to emergency medical services. The budget will invest $5.6 million directly into counties to develop individual EMS plans with oversight under the statewide EMS task force. Ensure access to emergency medical services. The 2026 budget modernize EMS provision by defining EMS as essential service and requiring counties to develop EMS mapping to be used by the statewide EMS task force, allowing the task force to identify gaps in EMS service coverage. Received an email from Rafael Castellanos, congratulating Joe Ranieri again on his appointment as Executive Director of REMSCO. In the Office of the Council sent following correspondence, age attendance minutes, associate attached to the meeting, letter sent to National Association EMS providers, physicians in response to communication from Bill Howe from Maimonides regarding the nature of shortages of cyano kits. Lou Marshall, Chair of the Board of Directors of New York City REMSCO, sent an email announcing the appointment of Joseph Ranieri as Executive Director. New York City REMAC public notice for proposed revision of the altered mental status for adult and pediatric pre-hospital treatment protocols was distributed to the region. Public comment year period ends on March 2nd, so that's passed. No comments were received. The proposed revisions of the ultimate mental status adult PA were sent to the New York State Department of Health and CMAC for addition to February 25 CMAC agenda, which was approved. REMAC Advisory 2025-01, Fed EMS hashtag general operating procedures and protocols were distributed to the region. And lastly, New York City Emergency Management Travel Advisory for Saturday evening on February 8th, 2025 through Sunday, February 9th was issued and that has long passed. Any questions? I know that's a mouthful.
One edit to the correspondence report. James Downey's comments are James Downey's comments. They did not come from Nice Vara. I ask that you restrict Nice Vara from that part of the minute.
Okay, that will be noted. All right, if no comments or questions, we can move on to staff reports. We'll start with emergency preparedness update. Joe?
All right, thank you. So currently the staff is working with the Queensborough Emergency Preparedness Coalition on putting together a on a EMS, first responder mental health symposium that's being scheduled for late May. We'll be putting out more information on that as the date and location and time is all finalized. But that information will be coming out soon. That'll be an open event for responders to come, hear some interesting speakers, listen to a panel discussion, and get some training and credentialing. We are also working on updating a number of our internal systems to help streamline some of our processes for REMAC credentialing and online medical control credentialing. We'll be releasing more information. We should have more information on that for the next regional council meeting. And those are the major projects we're working on right now.
Any questions, Joe? Okay, ambulance committee report.
Well, there should be a program agency.
What? Okay. I'm sorry. You skipped over your program agency update.
All right. So for the program agency update, we are still now 9 months in. We still have not received a contract. We have. I'll let the legislative committee will speak in more depth on this, but we are sending out a follow-up letter to this week to all the New York State legislatures that will be reading as such. Dear New York State legislative member, I am writing this letter as a follow-up to a letter sent on January 8th regarding the New York State Department of Health's delay in issuing emergency medical service program agency contracts, which I have attached for your reference. In the 3 months that have passed, there has not been any change to the status of these contracts. The activity periods for these contracts was meant to begin July 1st of 2024. We are now more than 9 months into the contracting period, and the contracts are still within New York State Department of Health budget office awaiting approval. Despite numerous attempts from us and other program agencies, the Department of Health has not provided any updates as to the status of these contracts or even any information as to the cause of this extensive delay. All the while, our office has been continuing to faithfully perform our duties to support EMS within New York City. We are starting to see the repercussions of these delays as the program agency that services the Lake Erie regions of the state have recently announced its closing. With this, the EMS services that service these communities will lose a vital resource for technical assistance, training, credentialing, and physician oversight. Other program agencies have signaled that further delays will cause them to do the same. I implore you to advocate with the Governor Hochul and the Health Commissioner McDonald to remove the barriers that are delaying these contracts. EMS program agencies are a required service mandated by Article 30 of New York State Public Health Law. Refusing to fund these services is paramount to refusing to adhere to legislative direction. During the same period that these contracts have been withheld, DOH's Division of EMS has rapidly expanded its internal staffing and expenditure on several new initiatives. It is negligent for the Department of Health to ignore the funding of services mandated by law, while at the same time focusing on advancing its own priorities. We thank you for your attention to this critical matter and for your continued support of emergency medical service throughout New York State. I am happy to discuss this issue further to provide additional information as needed. So that letter will be going out to all of the New York State legislative representatives that are within the New York City region. Does anybody have any questions on that? Yes.
I don't have a question about the letter. I think the letter is great. I do have a potential motion that I'd like to bring forward regarding this entire issue. 9 months, waiting 9 months to get a contract signed by the Department of Health is really, it's not even something we should be considering any longer. I believe that it is time for this body and for the Board of Directors to support that that we function and file an Article 78. For those of you who are not clear as to what an Article 78 is, it's a lawsuit that's used to challenge an action or inaction by agencies of New York State. I do believe this is something we ought to seriously consider and move forward with. We have attorneys we can work with to get this project underway. I am making that as a motion. Pardon me? Does not
Second,
require.
second? Yeah, you say, Brad.
I think you need an approval then. If you
Okay.
got a second. Discussion.
Discussion? Okay,
Pardon?
okay. Okay, so hearing none, we'll vote. Oh, go ahead, Arthur.
This is a big step, okay? I don't argue that it's not warranted. Sorry, Dr. Briscoe, for the mic. Is it on? Okay. I said, this is a big step. I don't argue that it's not warranted, but it's definitely going to, cause a great deal of agita among individuals in state government upon whom we depend in many ways. I do believe that if we undertake this, activity, that it should be done in collaboration with other program agencies throughout the state.
Agreed.
I think if we try to do that, if we try to take this on alone, I think we will find ourselves, in trouble. But if we want to do this collectively, I think it's something we should pursue. Thank you.
That's good advice. Do we have to change the motion to file Article 78 in conjunction with other regions?
Well, I think we can't force anyone to agree
yeah,
and to join in, but it would behoove us, and I think Joe has been working very closely
Yeah.
with our program agencies statewide. It would behoove us to invite them to join us in this matter.
Okay.
So the motion that you made was that we should pursue this. Do we want to pursue it without support of any other program agencies, or are we looking to get support first and then pursue it? I think that has to be clarified. Otherwise, if we vote on this motion to do it, we have to do it regardless of if other program
Yeah.
agencies agree to
Yeah,
participate.
unless you change the
Unless we
motion.
clarify it. I mean, again, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page
Let's
of what we're
clarify.
doing.
So you want to
So-
restate the motion or amend the motion?
Sure, we can amend the motion to include the support of other regions, not necessarily all regions, because we're not certain that'll happen, but inclusive of other regions.
Okay.
What if they say no, though? That's my question.
What if everyone says?
What if the other program agencies say no? Do we
Well,
want to continue to
then we
pursue
can-
this
then we
alone
can
or
bring
not?
That motion right back here again. How's that?
Well, the motion right now is that we would pursue it. We can ask for other people to be involved, but if they say no and we say we're going to pursue it, then we have to pursue it. That's kind of what we're agreeing to do. If we want to say we want to reach out to other program agencies saying that we are interested in doing this with them, then we can make that motion, in which case we can go reach out to everybody else and then make a decision as to what we want to do after the fact. But if we're saying we want to pursue this, then we're pursuing it with or without support, or is the motion that we want to pursue support to do this with other program agencies.
Right.
I believe that you can make this amendment, so this way we can move forward with investigating this. Does that work?
Yeah, I mean, again, I just want to make sure, I think that and again, it's your motion, but I think that what you're trying to say is that we would like to reach out to other program agencies to see if there's support to generate an article or an Article 78 action. And if that is the case, then we would go ahead and do it. If they came back, if other program agencies came back and there was no support, the question is, do you want to pursue it anyway, or do you want to reevaluate it at that point?
Well, I think.
Give you a
that's-
different conversation. Yeah.
Well,
a
that's-
different
I think that-
conversation, yeah.
Well, that's the clarification
Right.
that needs to be made.
Right.
So it's not that you want to pursue an Article 78, you want to reach out to other program agencies to gauge interest on doing this
Well,
together.
I think we should let's let Brad speak and then.
So I would support the motion to pursue an Article 78. And I think the motion saying pursue could mean we could explore ideas of involving others. There's obviously a lot of questions about talking to the council, seeing what that would entail. I don't think pursue locks the council into any particular strategy. The motion's to pursue it. And as for if we would do it alone, which I don't think, this is here or there in this particular motion, I think we should, because, and I understand there might be political consequences, but it seems like we're well beyond that at this point, right? Like, this is not a few months. This seems like a problem that is not going to go away. So I would support the motion as stated.
So the original motion, not the amended motion.
I'm confused as to what the-
No, I think it's prudent. Okay, and Joseph spoke this very well. Okay, I mean, I think it's a different conversation. Okay, in terms of how we pursue it. Okay, if no one else wants to join us on it. Okay, so I would want to be cautious. Okay, put ourselves in a position. Okay, where perhaps we voted a motion that puts us in that situation moving ahead without others. Okay, I think it'd be much better. Okay, to do this with others, or maybe amend the motion again. First, explore a conversation with other regions to see, okay, if in fact, okay, they would be willing to join us, okay, in an Article 78. I think that's the better way to go.
Okay, so we'll change the word from pursue to explore.
Yeah.
I thought
Does
those
that
were
work?
equivalent.
Can we clarify a motion?
Yeah, let's clarify that. Right, I agree.
No, someone else clarify.
So I think the motion is to explore, filing an Article 78, in conjunction with other regions, that be willing to pursue that route along with us.
And if they are not.
And if they not, it would come back, to the council for discussion.
Or bring it back to the next council meeting.
Right.
With appropriate information.
Right. Arthur?
Some of you, not all of you, are old enough to remember some of the ancient history around this. I said some of you, but not all of you, are old enough to remember some of the ancient history around this issue. The program agencies originated from the old block grants that were put in place under President Reagan, replacing the old 1200 series of grants under the former Department of Health, Education and Welfare, which of course is now the Department of Health and Human Services. The department was adamantly opposed to continuing the program agencies as they existed. We need to be very careful about this. And the program agencies all coming together, and fighting this back in the day was what convinced the legislature to include program agencies in Article 30 of the Public Health Law. Otherwise, they would not have been included. Make no mistake, the department would rather, have in effect regional offices under its control rather than program agencies, which have some degree of independence. And I'm not arguing which is better. I'm simply saying that that's the ancient history, and that's what happened back then. But only by collective action did the program agency succeed in convincing the legislature to ensure a place for the program agencies within the public health law. So I think the motion as it's been revised is probably the best way to go. We want to explore this issue, okay? But recognize that it's really only through the collective action of as many of the program agencies, if not all, that we would likely succeed if we were to go the Article 78 route, because of course that's a very big step to take, and the Department of Health is not likely to react positively to such a move on our part. Thank you.
Okay, any further comment, discussion? So we're going to vote on the revised motion. Do we need to restate it, or?
Can we restate?
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just so I know that this is the motion. To explore filing an Article 78 in conjunction with other regions that will pursue that route with us, and if they are not, to bring it to the next council meeting for discussion with appropriate information.
It sounds like what we said.
I'm just confirming.
Yeah.
Everybody votes.
Is hand roll vote call or hand vote? Hand vote? All right. All right. So all in favor? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Unanimous. Any else, Joe?
Nope. I want to thank the council for its support and its courage in deciding to take some action on this, because we have to start moving forward, and nothing's changed in 9 months. And the only way things are going to change at this point is if we make a change. So thank you. That concludes the program agency report.
Okay, very good. Okay, ambulance committee report.
Ambulance committee met right before REMSCO. You got me now? Yes. Okay. And we were discussing Whitestone ambulance volunteer corps. They had to turn in their certificate. They were offered an opportunity to address some violations, and they're working on it right now. But as of right now, they had to turn in their operating certificate. It was suspended. Recruitment and retention. We discussed that. We are working with New York City schools to try to promote some career days, maybe try to get some students interested in joining EMS. We're also going over some insurance. And I believe the last time we met, we were discussing 401ks and Roth IRAs. I'm not sure where we left it off with that, but we'll touch upon that again next meeting. And then New York City REMSCO ID cards. That is still that still needs to be acknowledged, and we need to find out what we're going to be doing with those.
So we're not doing it.
ID cards. Michelle? Sorry.
At the last tag, the latest is there will not be any ID cards or vehicle security stickers issued to agencies and people. However, the council will make themselves available, as well as the tag, to assist agencies that have predominantly issues with issuing agency-specific ID tags. But as of now, things have changed since 2002. So most every agency has their own agency-based ID card. However, the council remains available to assist, and that's where we left it.
Okay, anything for Martina? Any questions about her report? All right, if none, Training and Education Committee.
Training and Ed met this past Friday, March 21st. On our agenda, we discussed the stroke protocol in education. We're collaborating with BOT on it. More like BOT is primarily going to be sharing it with us. We're sharing test questions with them, and they are finalizing their video. So hopefully we'll have some news on that soon. Thank you to the fire department who's been begun providing us with the EMS journals that are going to start getting uploaded onto the LMS. So that people region-wide can start using that as CME. We are going to have a group of committee members working on a landing page on REMSCO's website for training and education. So there's a little bit more of a robust place for them to go to find information on training and any regional or beyond regional initiatives. There's going to be a some CLI program dates are being finalized for the spring. There's going to be an instructor update that's scheduled for May 4th, and summer and fall dates are also tentatively set as of now for both CLI and CIU classes for August and October, November. Okay, Training and Ed collaborated with CNC. We're asked by CNC to take a look at the CME requirements. CNC discussed updating the duration of REMAC certification to 4 years from 3 years that it currently is at to match what the state has done, and to leave the amount of CME hours required similar to what the state did. The state did not change their requirement on CME hours and just moved the credentialing period to 4 years. Our proposal was the same. So CNC asked us to look at the way that CME was provided. What we did was we provided a table that would keep the same amount of hours, but make the time that is there more valuable and increase the physician time under category A CME today, which is the call review medical director hours. I believe that did not pass REMAC. We had asked that at that meeting on Friday for an email to be sent out to the REMAC physicians to send back some proposals or information, which we have not received. We have a meeting tentatively set for this Friday to discuss anything we received in response. If we don't, the same proposal is going to come to REMAC as is. End of report.
Okay, any questions, Morty? Thank you, Morty. Any questions?
Well, again, I think we could use this time for a little discussion because there was a lot of discussion at REMAC about the amount of hours per year of CME time, as well as the breakdown. And, being that this is more of an operations group than the physician group, I would love to hear some feedback that I could bring back to REMAC on, what you guys think about these hours. Both, the first question was if the time frame changes to 4 years, why shouldn't the CME requirements change? And I understand that it's harder to do more hours. I don't disagree with that, but it also leads to better paramedics that are more educated because they're doing more CME time. And I think most medical directors in organized system do more than that 36 hours of CME over that time. So this was part of the discussion at REMAC. There was multiple votes. One vote on increasing the amount of directed physician CME time, which failed. And then the final vote for the 36 hours over 4 years failed as well, probably because we didn't have enough people at the meeting. But that again, the point that I'm trying to make is I would love to hear from you what you guys think. Again, it's easy to say less hours is easier, but is it better?
Just a couple of comments. One was that the two categories while we're looking at this, the category A, category B. I think the category B, we should probably reevaluate whether or not that's even necessary because it actually is redundant because it's either covered by your CME refresher or if I took a refresher course, it surpasses that. As far as the category A, honestly, it's saying that this is my first time going through with the CME refresher, and this is not going to be a popular opinion. I don't feel everything is as fresh in my mind as it would have been if I, was studying for the REMAC exam. I still miss the oral exams. I'm probably like the one
Yeah.
person who thinks that, I think that did make a change.
A lot of people
in-
did better with those. A lot of people did better with those. Again, depending on who you got, but
Yeah.
still.
Well, not even that, but even
Yeah.
as, I think there was some stuff lost in terms of the skills of how to present to a physician.
Okay.
And when we actually took away that initial oral exam, I think there was some loss to that.
Having taking these presentations, I would agree with you.
From my perspective, I just went through REMAX CME research. I think, as Brian mentioned, I think we get more out of good category A physician-directed call review. I know every physician likes to do it differently, but you're actually one-on-one in one way, shape, or form, and you actually get other people's perspective. You have a review on the protocols while you're there. So if we upped the amount of category A, another 12 hours to coincide with that 4 years, I would agree with that. The category B, I think, is kind of a little outdated and a little mishmash. Right now it's 36 hours. We can probably keep 36, but redistribute or reevaluate and perhaps go to more specialty directed call review on that respect to kind of
Well, call
improve.
review would be category A, right?
So, I mean, no, like lectures
Specialties,
and
lectures.
and things like that, that would be more interactive and more educational to current times, and perhaps some protocol, thrown in there somewhere, but it could be.
I think maybe I didn't actually take the time to explain what we did to the CME hours. What we did was we took the two 36-hour categories, both A and B, and we said for each of them. Sorry. Each of them, you need a minimum of 18 hours of each to be synchronous. That adds tremendous value, right? So you can't take just some whatever online classes for all 36 hours. So a lot of that CME refresher, unless it was in person or virtual live, you can't use that for all of your time. You have to have a minimum of that time in person. I think that changes everything. Under category A, we also added a line that allows for medical directors to specifically approve what they would like to approve under category A, which gives the medical director more leverage over what their paramedics have to get within that category. So just so everybody understands what the intent was over there, it was to give much more value to the 72 hours that are currently required.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, I hear what everybody's saying, that the category B, it says a lot of people are doing either CME-based refresher or other things are a little bit redundant. The challenge is that, and again, I think CME-based refresher and all of it is probably not the best educational tool. It's good to ensure that you're kind of crossing the T's and dotting the I's, but to really verify that you know the stuff, and I think, Brian, you mentioned it doesn't really work the way it should. The challenge is that overall, if we go to a 4-year cycle and don't add any hours, we are decreasing the amount of training that is required. I don't know that this is the best time to do that. I mean, Megan's program is exemplary, but I have seen a lot of paramedics coming out that it doesn't seem like they have, because they don't have as much physician contact, because they don't have as much education time, maybe it does seem like things have been watered down dramatically. And I question, when a paramedic comes out, and we all know a paramedic program in and of itself is not designed to teach a paramedic that's going to be on the street. They need continuing education. They need in servicing when they get to their agency, in terms of the equipment that they're going to use, in terms of the expectations, in terms of the protocols that they're using at their agency. So it is on the agencies to add to that basic training, basically. It's a lot of basics, but but I do think that there is some inherent benefit to having that time. And if we were to remove the category B, now we're decreasing from 48 now became 36, now became, well, I guess 72 became less, because for that 4th year, you're not going to need any CME. So you're actually decreasing the amount of hours that you need overall. That was our concern, that when we were sitting at the table discussing this, and it was a very long, very robust discussion, Doug, I get, and Amber can comment on this. It was a very robust discussion, and that was our concern. And I don't know the answer. I know the state made it less, but the state is making everything less. And I don't know that the state is, having the minimum standards is great, but that's a minimum. And I don't know that we should be at a minimum standard. Our volumes are definitely way more than anybody else in the state. We probably should have higher standards. Doug, you want to add anything? Just speaking to the microphone, please.
No, I have nothing else in addition to what you said, Joe. You articulated well. I mean, overall reducing the education, we have less experienced members, and not the right time to do it.
Yeah, and that was our concern. That's what we sent back to CNC.
And I think we also emphasize the quality that's being done out there too. I think something that also should be discussed, but a separate conversation.
And I do know that I'm going to stop Morty before he says it. The physicians have to be more involved, and I do agree with him.
You are 100% correct.
That's true. And I think that unfortunately you're preaching to the choir for the people in this room, because the people in this room are pretty actively involved, but we do have to get more involvement. We changed our membership at REMAC. The people who didn't show up were removed from the membership. And that needs to continue with education and being part of the system. It can't be just on the 20 doctors who show up at REMAC. It has to be on all the doctors that are in the system. So I do 100% agree with that.
So the big question is, what do you want? If we have to redraft it, just tell us what you want redrafted. We'll redraft it.
I mean, I'd love to hear, again, I am to blame that I'm not at CNC meetings as much as I can be or should be, but I do think that we need to look at this, and I know the state is making everything less. I don't know that that's really the best thing for our region or the best thing in general. I'd love to hear feedback on, I'm hearing, I agree, even though it is more work for the medics out there. Tom, go ahead.
I know virtual AI is where we're going. There's no requirement for anything live in person. You say live now on Teams or Zoom, that's a live, that's a synchronous, right?
That's what we did, yeah.
Learning. Even worse than what Brian was saying, he loves oral
exams, oral
classes.
exams. Please don't say that. We're being recorded.
This is why I don't speak on mics, I guess. But when it comes down to, is there any possibility of entertaining some sort of live, even 8-hour, every 4-year session where you have to be face to face with some medical director? And whatever you do in that 8 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever it may be, is more than we're doing now at all.
So I think that falls on the agency. I mean, the fire department has live in-person education with their physicians and their members. We have live in person. I sit down with the crews and meet with them as well. It has to do with, you have to reach out to your medical directors, but one of the things we do find is, I'm not a fan of Zoom. I hate when people are not showing their face on a meeting, but it does increase. We had a town hall that we did during one of the protocol updates, had 200 people. I have a monthly call review that I do through NYP, but it's open to anybody. And we have 100 people on every month. So I think that there is an advantage to it. I do pick on people on the call. I make people talk. It has to be somewhat, what's the word I'm looking for?
Interactive.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
There is a requirement for synchronous to have cameras on.
It should have some more, meaning.
That there.
Again, the onus is on both people, right? The doctors have to provide it, but there's only less of us than there are. You guys have to show up. When we have in-person meetings,
when it's
mandated,
mandated,
don't show up.
You have no choice but to show up.
And then again, we mandated our regional protocols, and it takes until a month after the protocols are done to get them done. So it is challenging, but you got to show up if you want the education. there are people who want to give it to you. Doug will educate you beyond belief. I will do my best to educate you. I mean, I'm not that smart as Doug, but right, look at the MSOC conference. That's education. Then there's plenty to go around. So I think it's a two-way street, but I also think that maybe we should look at just mirroring the years. So if it was 12 hours a year, which is the 36, maybe it should be 48 because now we're a 4-year cycle. I don't know, but I think that might be best for the region. All right. Well, again, I just wanted to have a little bit of a discussion so I can go back to REMAC with some information from this group and at the next meeting and say, look, this is what makes sense. Maybe we'll do this.
Did anybody give a reason why they wanted to lower it? Is it because of retention or anything? Is there?
It was just to mirror the
We wanted to
state.
mirror
I
the
think,
state at a
right?
time when we're having an issue with the state already with credentialing and REMAC. We didn't want to.
Maybe we should
draw
say to the
another,
state that they're not doing enough. I think it's time to start saying to the state that they don't do enough, or maybe cities over 1 million people should not have to answer this. I mean, that's a different thing, but I'm just saying, I mean, I don't know if that's some, yeah.
When it comes to
Hold on,
education, we're trying
Megan wants to speak. You gotta come to a mic though, Megan.
Just before it gets too far on the state side of things, this doesn't have to do with state training and ed or New York State saying we should keep it there because of a
That's right.
reason. It's literally because they don't have the mechanism to think about it at all.
Right,
So that certainly should not be where this group decides.
correct.
Because they're not.
I agree.
Megan, can you say a little more about that? When you say they don't have the mechanism to think about this at all? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that.
They have one person doing all of the CME paperwork.
Oh, wow.
So at the end of the day, they were like, cool, we just figured out how to catch up on paperwork. So I don't know that we want to look at that a little bit more. Now, obviously, not on official record for, yes, this is what we're doing, but that's not a discussion that they're having at this time that I know about.
You know, I will say that.
Turn on your microphone before you get yelled at. Still not on. No, hold the button down. There you go.
I will say that, that the Bureau, now the division, has grown like topsy. I mean, at the last set of state meetings, it was announced that the division now they'd hired so many more people. And these were, pardon me?
254.
Yeah, I mean, the division is pretty huge right now. I mean, it's kind of surprising to me that, and I'm sure you're right, you know, it's kind of surprising to me that they only have one person, you know, pushing the paper for CME. It just doesn't make any sense, but you're absolutely right. If you've got one person whose job it is to push the paper and nobody's thinking about, you know, the end product, you know, and how to get there, that's a problem.
Yeah, and regardless of, you know, what they're doing, they are not looking to change it anytime soon. So that wasn't a conversation. So my point just being that shouldn't direct, obviously, and it clearly is not.
It's fine. Look, I'm not looking to take a position on this one way or the other. A committee's job. No, I am not. I'm saying training and ed's job is to do what REMAC asks it to do. So for it to go back to the drawing board and do what the physicians want, that's what we'll do. We just need to know what that is. So if you guys can kindly respond to the emails so we have an idea of what it is you'd like to see, we'll provide it regardless of what my personal opinions are. That's all.
Right.
End of report.
End of report. No more discussion? I guess this is a segue into the REMAC report.
Okay. So REMAC met on February 18th. I'm not going to rehash the discussion about CNC because we just had it, and I appreciate the input because it'll allow us to go back to REMAC with information. There was an approved motion that did come forward, and that was we voted on reappointment of our leadership. Myself as the chair, Jeff Rabrich as the first vice chair, and Brad Kaufman as the second vice chair. That needs to be voted on here. So if you do not want to hear me again, you can vote against it, and we'll have to find new people. But that does need approval at this body. So I would suggest we do that first, and then we can go from there. So, Mr.
Motion.
Chair, whatever you want to say.
You second? Is there a vote?
It comes as a
What?
seconded motion, so it doesn't need a motion again, but
Hand
it just
vote?
needs to be voted on. I
Okay.
think a hand vote is fine.
Okay, all in favor? Good. Anyone opposed? Abstentions? Yeah, that's-
Okay, thank you, and I hate you all.
Yeah.
The executive committee did not meet. We had a discussion about the CNC committee. Medical standards, this was the bulk of the medical standards meeting that met. There was from the QA committee, there was approval of the BLS iGel. All the paperwork was in place for the Bed-Stuy BLS iGel project. So that was a letter of attestation was sent to Hudson Valley so that they can begin their involvement in the pilot. Let's see here. There was a discussion of Mount Sinai presenting their national airway project using the Airway 1 metric from NEMSQA. The STEMI tag met on February 19th. That information will go to the next REMAC meeting. And on February 18th at this meeting, the fire department announced that Mount Sinai Beth Israel is still open pending their stay. I think it's still open today, correct? That is a day by day moving target, but we will keep everybody involved. The next meeting will be on, oh, this is wrong. March 18th is passed already, but the next meeting will be on April 8th. April 8th, because we don't meet in May. And again, another plug to the May 18th awards dinner at Russo's on the Bay. And finally, Staten Island University Hospital is beginning an ultrasound pilot program. More information to come. Thank you. That concludes the report. Any questions?
Questions? Okay, quality improvement committee report. That's a quality, okay, so nothing,
Yes,
okay,
correct.
nothing,
That
nothing more
included
quality,
it.
okay, great. Legislative committee?
All right, so the newly formed legislative committee met on March 20th. I want to thank all the members of both the REMSCO and the REMAC that agreed to join the committee. So the purpose of the committee is going to be monitoring, analyzing, responding to local and state legislation impacting EMS, particularly here in New York City, as well as advocating for legislation that will help support EMS and the regional council's mission, whether that is through funding, operational capabilities, or regulating statutory powers. So in addition, that committee will also be working on collaborating amongst EMS stakeholders and legislative bodies to ensure comprehensive involvement in discussions and proactive improvements to legislation that moves our mission forward. So there's a couple of things that the legislative committee is working on, one of which is the delayed program agency contracts, which this body's already extensively discussed on, and we agreed to send out the letter that I read out earlier today. In addition, the committee discussed the proposed changes to Article 30 that are in the current budget session and expressed concerns over several of the articles in there. Ultimately, the committee decided that the regional council should send out a letter not supporting the changes through the budgetary process and advocating for the state to instead do a comprehensive review and change of Article 30 through legislative session through a coalition. So the committee also discussed the current challenges that are being brought forth by the state on our credentialing authority, the ways that we can combat that, including the aforementioned proposed comprehensive changes to Article 30 to make that authority to do regional credentialing put explicitly in law, whereas right now folks seem to think it's only implicit. And then finally, on the New York City level, there have been ongoing discussions within New York City Council, particularly from the Progressive Caucus, about providing continuing funding and annual funding for EMS mental health support. We've been in a number of discussions with that with the city council. They are very interested in the REMSCO mental health peer support program and the good work that it does, as well as the mental health program that the fire department supports as well. So the proposal includes a line item funding for EMS mental health as part of broader public health initiatives, and the committee will be exploring that further in ways that it can support moving that forward. And that concludes the report, and the next meeting will be scheduled shortly.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Joe? Okay, so I'll move on to the State EMS Council report. It's rather lengthy. I'm just going to hit a couple of items. The problem with these reports is so many issues that are discussed, and different issues may have create different interests among different individuals. So if you want a copy of the report, we'd be happy to share with you. So the CMAX REMSCO was held on February 26, 27 in Troy, New York. I mentioned earlier was approval of the New York City altered mental status protocol by CMAC and REMSCO. The Bureau report, there was mention of their undergoing transition to become a division of State EMS, which will be hiring additional staff. And actually, the division will be broken down into 3 bureaus, a Bureau of EMS Administration, Bureau of EMS Emergency Management, and a Bureau of EMS Standards and Licensure. Again, this revamping would also include a hiring of a full-time state medical director, whom I believe they're still looking to identify for that purpose. It was also mentioned that the Surgery Operations Center is renamed the State Medical Operations Coordination Center and is now has permanent staff. There's a website one can go to. It's a public website that shows current information on all hospitals in New York State reporting the diversion status. It was reported that multiple trauma center verifications are currently in progress. The EMS Memorial is going to be held on Tuesday, May 20th at the Empire State Plaza. CMAC also, and this is some point of contention here. CMAC discussed the qualification credentialing of EMS agency medical director. The New York State Department of Health clarified that SEMSCO establishes minimum standards for regulations. Regions do not have the authority to credential agency medical directors. However, they can credential system medical control physicians. Regions may develop policies, procedures, protocols that align with state standards, but cannot create their own minimum standards that deviate from the state requirements. The CMAC can make recommendations to SEMSCO, or an advisory may be issued to provide further guidelines. At the end of the conversation, it was agreed that there'll be a tag created to draft the document to present to SEMSCO and the commissioner outlining the state's proposed minimum standards for medical directors. The issue of, okay, Arthur, good.
Yeah, this was quite a robust discussion, and the short of it is this: the folks from relatively small systems upstate, are not in a position to really be able to, enforce the kinds of standards we would like to have in our region for agency medical directors. We'd like our folks to be, even if possible, EMS board certified, among many other things. That's the level we would like to see, here in the city. Not even all of our services in the city can meet that standard, but it's an aspirational goal, right? But the folks upstate are nowhere near able to get that close to that kind of level of preparation for an agency medical director.
Mhm.
Hence the discussion that took place. So it remains to be seen how all this works out. As I recall, the final outcome of that particular discussion, it was, as always, going to go back to the State Department of Legal Affairs, the Department of Health, Department of Legal Affairs, to, see what could be done. But, but that's the issue. We just a few minutes ago were speaking about, cities over 1 million population.
Right.
It's the same issue that it often is. But that was really the crux of the disagreement.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you for filling out the conversation, Doug.
was discussed at state meeting that from 2006 state policy that the regions are allowed to set those requirements for their region. But apparently they were not aware of their own policy, and it's still an active policy from 2006. It's very clear, leaving that to the region. There's no mention about being rescinded. We've not heard anything from their legal, like in some other past issues. So I think we should move forward as a region. Every region, that could be your right. Every region is going to have their different requirements, their needs, and so on. We have very active New York City region, and we should move forward of the work that's already been started.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Doug. Any disagreement with that?
No disagreement, but at the same time, it sounds like what they were discussing is regions having a minimal standard that is less than the states. And they can have whatever minimum they want, if I misunderstood, but that's what it sounds like.
Discussion was at the state.
It sounds like that's what Bob read
Yeah.
out of the minutes.
What's the minimum standards? Set any standards at the regional
Yeah.
level.
Well, I think we're going to continue to set standards. And if somebody wants to argue with us setting higher standards when we can meet it, then they can have that argument and send us a cease and desist letter. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Arthur, was it your understanding that they were saying, as the minutes reflected from my statement, that the state is saying that only the state can set a minimum standard for the entire state? Well, can it set a minimum standard for the entire state?
I think their point was that if the state were to establish, by an accountable legal mechanism, if they were to establish a minimum standard, that all the regions in the state would have to meet or exceed it.
Yeah.
That's for sure, but
Yeah.
that's nothing new. I mean, that's true
Right.
for everything.
Right.
But there is no, policy is not regulation or statute.
Right.
It's guidance. And, the policy statement that was promulgated in 2006, talks about, as is usually the case, language that reflects knowledge and interest in, emergency medical services. Doesn't go a lot further than that.
Yeah.
But that, again, it can't, okay?
Right.
Because it's, we're dealing with small volunteer squads in sparsely populated areas of the state that are lucky they can find anybody, to support them medically. So.
Yeah, there was a lot of obfuscation on this issue, which is, I think, the reason why they agreed to stop a tag. Yeah. Right.
Good
Right.
word, yes.
Okay, thank you all. Just to go on, because we're getting close to the end of this report. Okay, there was a discussion, as Joe mentioned earlier, about the program agencies, contracts still not being signed. System, efforts are underway regarding performance standards with concept papers nearing completion for public comment later this year. Those standards will actually rely heavily on regional data. You discussed the discussion about the governor's executive budget, which we're addressing with the legislative committee. Part of that discussion, I had made a prepared statement, expressing. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If the legislative committee wants to get its ideas out there, a lot of time to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, the budget is supposed to be passed, by August or by April 1st.
Right.
And it is now March 25th.
Right.
So I would suggest that if there are points that need to be made by the council on the advice of the legislative committee, we'd better either vote on them tonight or empower the executive committee to act on the council's behalf, prior to a potential April 1st deadline. Thank you.
Joe, you want to comment on that?
Actually, thank you for bringing that up, Dr. Cooper. I neglected during the legislative committee report. I did the letter that I referred to earlier. I put it out on the table for everybody to review. This letter was approved by the legislative committee to go out. So I do want to bring this forward to the body. If someone would like to make a motion to approve the staff send this letter to all of our New York State legislative reps that represent us here in New York City.
Joe, I think it would be wise to read the contents of the letter into the record, so there's no question.
So I want to do that?
Absolutely. So, dear legislative member, I am writing on behalf of the Regional EMS Council of New York City to express our opposition to the proposed changes to Public Health Law Article 30 as outlined in Part R of the fiscal year 2026 New York State Executive Budget Health and Mental Hygiene Article 7 legislation. While we support the aim of these proposals to update emergency medical services within New York State and improve EMS access to residents, many of the proposed changes are too loosely written, diminishes the important role of regional bodies in shaping EMS to local needs, and were not developed with appropriate stakeholder buy-in. Embedding them within thousands of pages of budgetary initiatives. The proposed changes are not budget related, nor do they have any funding tied to them. Embedding them within thousands of pages of budgetary initiatives robs EMS stakeholders from appropriately weighing in on these changes, as would normally be the case if such changes were proposed in legislative session. The Regional EMS Council of New York City agrees that New York State Public Health Law Article 30 needs significant updates to address the modern challenges that face EMS today. However, rushing such changes through the budgetary process is not conducive to ensuring that the proposed changes are well thought out or have broad support within the EMS community. We urge you and your communities in the legislature to reconsider these proposed amendments. Instead, we recommend that Article 30 be updated in a holistic manner through legislative session. The best way for Article 30 to be changed is through a coalition of EMS stakeholders coming together to propose a comprehensive update to Article 30 that is coherent through all sections, provides appropriate powers to the state at the state level to enact broad change, while empowering regions to actively shape their EMS systems to meet their regional needs. By adopting such measures, we can ensure that our public health laws continue to serve the best interests of all New Yorkers. Thank you for your attention to this critical matter. I trust that you will give due consideration to the concerns raised and act in the best interest of our state's health and well-being. Sincerely, us.
Arthur?
I would just ask that we have the chair of the council, in addition to the executive director, sign this letter. I think that's a very important piece of it. I think it would also be important if the chair of REMAC could sign the letter. Although REMAC, I don't believe has had the opportunity to consider this. Joe, you might want to consider calling an executive committee to.
So the executive committee of REMAC are all sitting on the legislative committee.
Yeah.
So they all were involved and we agreed and we'll sign the letter.
Good,
Okay,
good
fine.
advice.
Yeah, so it should be the two chairs and Joe. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion?
I have nothing
Okay.
more to add. I
just
think
to finish
we have
up,
to vote to approve to send this out.
Okay. Arthur?
I'm voting.
Oh, yeah. We have a
Motion to
a
approve.
motion to approve the
Motion to approve the letter. as
letter,
written.
second. All in favor? Okay, anyone opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so just to finish up, the quality metrics thing. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Doug.
It was brought to my attention that it's on the Senate floor, the EMS bill, and they are discussing it. They rejected it today. So they are at negotiations right now with the governor directly. So maybe we should move on that
Okay,
real quick.
thank you.
Letter will be going out first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Okay, so actually, Other than the only remaining issue I was going to share was the Quality Metrics Committee. Uh, had reported enhanced their pre-hospital quality improvement webpage by adding links to the National Emergency Medical Service Quality Alliance, KK, and they're working on addressing data integrity issues and planning to develop NEMSCO KK measure reports and dashboards utilizing data free of integrity problems. That's the end of my report on the minutes from the CMAC REMSCO. And now, unfinished business. Anyone? We had a lively discussion at the REMAC about the 10-minute rule. I don't know if anyone wants to raise that issue again. Is anybody from Gardner York Hospital here? Yeah. I just one question, maybe the fire department can help me with, was it was mentioned that Memorial Sloan Kettering was exempt from this policy?
It's one of the specialty referrals.
But yeah, so if I could.
Sloan Kettering, New York Eye and Ear, you just need to contact telemetry for transport there to ensure that, especially New York Eye and Ear, that they have staff there. But the specialty referrals have to go through telemetry.
Yeah, my only concern with that, and myself, I think I'm in favor of the 10-minute rule, and a little bit concerned again about the problems, really the patient care, but also healthcare disparities associated with this. So
Kettering, we always had to call telemetry because it's
yeah,
not
no,
911 receiving.
yeah, but
so that protocol hasn't changed.
Yeah, my point is that Memorial Sloan Kettering only treats a minority of oncology patients in New York City. I can think of 3 or 4 hospital systems on the top of my head, each of which individually treat more oncology patients, more Sloan Kettering. So I'm asking the question: are we creating a healthcare disparity, by singling out one oncology center versus others?
If you look at the order in its entirety, there are overrides. If you feel it's going to affect patient care, then you can contact telemetry for an override. And if it doesn't meet the telemetry phone call, you can request an officer on the scene, and the officer can override and make the determination.
Okay, thank you. I mean, the way it was presented last week, it will sound a little different.
Well, I will tell you that, I mean, anecdotally, I've heard of a few cases where they called telemetry and the physician said, I'm not allowed to override the policy. So again, I think it's education more than anything else. I'm not saying that it's anything else, but I think it just needs to be clear to them that in the event that it's appropriate, that it should be able to be overridden.
Yeah.
I agree that for inappropriate to go to a hospital because my records are there when I have a stubbed toe, probably doesn't need to do. But if it's something significant, I had a patient the other day who just had surgery and wasn't taken to the hospital where that surgery happened. And it was a post-surgical complication because telemetry said no.
Okay, that's
Yeah, again, I think it's education.
And we just recently spoke to Dr. Rasader again to ensure that the telemetry doctors are clear on the order. Specifically states if it is a complication to the surgery, the best course of action for that patient obviously is to return that patient to the hospital that provided the surgery. If you had the surgery at Lutheran and I'm taking you to Mamo's not going to have a clue of what was done, right?
Correct.
So
yeah, this is just constructive feedback. I don't disagree with the policy. I'm just saying there has to be clarity to them.
And I do have a couple of numbers since this started. So March 13th is when the order went out. Through today, first suggested hospitals are now being utilized 96% of the time, whereas last year during the same period, they were only utilized 83% of the time. Patient's choice this year is at 3%. Last year, this time is at 14%. And we decreased hospital redirections by 200. So it is working. Again, it's brand
brand new, we will continue to monitor. And of course, patient care is of the utmost importance in ensuring that the patients are receiving the best care they can.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Joseph. Okay, we're just expressing our concern.
But
I,
there are two ways to
yeah.
override. You can contact telemetry and you can request an EMS officer on the scene. And again, things are being tweaked. This is brand new. It shouldn't be brand new. We are an emergency service. If you have an emergency, you should be going to the closest hospital. We need to ensure that ambulances are available for those high acuity jobs. We're being abused left and right. Call volume is through the roof. We're trying our best to ensure we can get an ambulance to everybody who calls 911.
Yeah, well, I guess when I some of the language from the correspondence, okay, Keith, I think I read earlier, okay, the language, I thought it seemed like you couldn't override it. Okay, maybe Joseph had the same impression. Okay,
No, I think that
Yeah.
the language is clear that it's talking about low acuity, and that's great. I think the challenge is when a policy like this comes out basically overnight, there's not a lot of time for education, and it seems like even online medical control is not 100% clear. Maybe they're getting better on what was supposed to be happening. And that's all I'm saying.
And
I think
it's based on interpretation, and everybody's interpreting it their own way until we get everybody on track. There are going to be a couple of bumps along the way, but we're trying to get this corrected as soon as possible. We've already made another update to the policy and resent the policy out last week. I don't know if you have the latest policy.
No, yeah.
There was an addendum
Okay.
last week because of prisoners and mental health weren't taken into consideration or wasn't clearly delineated in the first order. And we made some exceptions to that.
Yeah, how do we distribute this policy? Okay, how can we better share it, perhaps?
I can forward it to the committee members.
Okay.
But it did go out to all the voluntary hospitals in the system.
Okay. Any other comment, discussion, Brian?
Yeah, I just had a couple of comments, and because in my seat, I get to represent the community. And so there are a couple of questions. One was in some of the underserved neighborhoods, I'm understanding that they don't get any choice. There's one hospital that is being recommended, not three.
It depends the hospital's vicinity to the call incident location.
Right, so these underserved communities where it's harder for hospitals to survive, and we know that in the Rockaways, we know that in the Bronx, that we're saying that these underserved patients, because they live in a poor community, don't have a choice of hospitals versus where if they're on the Upper East Side, they're gonna have a handful of hospitals to choose from.
Again, it's all based on call location and the vicinity of the hospitals. Because if you go into, by Kings County, you have Kings County and downstate, so there's a choice there. Unfortunately, Manhattan does have a lot more hospitals in the vicinity, so there's a little bit of a choice. But that's going to change too once Beth Israel closes. Now you're either gonna have to go to Bellevue, depending upon where the location is, or New York downtown, based on where the location is. So I don't think we should single out underserved communities. The commissioner did look into that and ensured, and if we need to expand the areas, we will. But again, it's only been 2 weeks and all eyes are on this.
The other concern is that it could be a financial impact to some patients, even though there is a surprise bill act that does say that, they have to, hospitals can only bill the in-network rate. Some of the insurance companies actually have their in-network rate and then they have preferred. And there's a huge difference, myself included, my insurance is a large difference if I go to a preferred hospital versus a in-network hospital, of course. And to some, again, also with those, someone who's in an underserved community, if someone already has financial difficulties, we know medical bills can bankrupt people.
Again, it's case by case. That unit can call an officer on the scene, override the decision.
But now we're saying it's an emergency, so now we're delaying the transport still further.
Well, if it's a high acuity emergency, then you would contact telemetry. and you'd get transported.
which also has delays. And, part of we were told, I heard at the REMAC meeting, part of this was that telemetry is already overwhelmed.
Telemetry actually is getting a lot less calls now. So hopefully they'll be available.
So listen, telemetry is available. The medical physicians are aware. Medical decisions are made, not operational. So, if there are no units available, again, we have to ensure that anyone calls 911 for emergency, that we have units available to meet all communities' needs. So, as Chief Ketchell said, this is being closely monitored by all units of the fire department. I'm sure this will evolve, but we are serving all communities.
Sure, we're serving all communities and we have ambulance available for those high acuity assignments.
Okay, if you just share the most, current policy with us, okay, and if there are any updates, certainly we want to see those as well. Okay.
Yeah, the 911 voluntary hospitals are receiving the updates. As soon as we get them, they're mailed out to all the participating hospitals. So there is total transparency on those.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion on this matter? Any other, new business? You want to go ahead. The motion to, no, we have the EMS week, awards vote. We don't want to adjourn without doing that. Yeah.
Raise your hands if you're in the primary voting seat, please. What did you just say?
Primary seat holder.
The voting, how do we vote? We circle it or
Just check next to the person.
just check next to the name? Just check, right?
So, there's a lot of ALS.
When you complete your ballot, just put your hand up and either myself or Michelle will come and collect it from you.
Might be easy next time just to have a list of those people and check off. There's a cumbersome way of doing it. No, yeah. I mean, we still need to distribute information. Okay.
Oh, well, I'm just going off of what I read. I'm not reading more, but it's.
Especially confusing, it's like you started business days.
Oh.
Only for the.
Oh, I missed that.
So we have to go for Robert.
Oh. It's on the bottom of the page.
Not that this should sway anyone's vote. I'm just saying, Megan actually worked in class here. It's the only person that brings her class here.
Guys, the meeting's not over. We still have to adjourn.
That was, should have done it before he wasn't looking.
Yeah, I would say.
Or is it gonna be a bit
Yeah. Should be adjourned. I think we'll just, it's okay. I think we'll just adjourn and, okay, we'll report back to you, okay, the results of the vote, unless you want to stick around. Yeah. We adjourn the meeting. I don't know if we want to keep everybody here for the final tally. So for those who want, we'll adjourn. For those who want to stick around.
There you go. I don't need to wait. We'll do it.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Don't cut it yet. Yeah. Are we adjourning? Do we have to make a motion?
Don't know. We have to wait for a motion.
Okay. All right. Motion to adjourn. Okay. Second. Adjourn.
Tabulate the votes in the office and email out the
Yeah, this
winners
way
to the
we don't have to
committee.
rush.